Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different. We're not just looking at the end result of a major campaign, the expedition of Tabuk.
Right, we're focusing on the journey to Tabuk.
Exactly. The journey itself. We're diving into these really specific, quite remarkable stories from that march, the human side, the logistical headaches, moments of, well, profound faith.
Yeah, and our source for this is it's a summary of a Friday sermon. And it's great because it gives these really granular details, the kind you often miss in those broad historical overviews, you know?
Things like heat, hunger, the daily grind.
Precisely. So our mission really is to pull out these surprising bits of information, these stories that show the incredible resilience and, frankly, the organizational thinking needed to move a whole community across the desert.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We're aiming to give you, the listener, a kind of shortcut to understanding what that expedition felt like day to day, synthesizing the practical problems they faced and sometimes these, well, miraculous-sounding solutions.
And maybe extract some lessons about crisis management, community trust, that sort of thing.
Right. Let's start right at the beginning. They leave Medina. The source says their first camp is at Duk Kushab, just a day's journey out. But immediately they have to adapt, don't they? Even their core religious practices.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting. The leadership showed real flexibility, acknowledging how tough the travel was. So for the whole journey, the Holy Prophet actually combined the obligatory prayers.
Like shortening the schedule.
Sort of, yeah, combining them. So the afternoon prayers, Zuhr and Asr, they were done together. Same for the evening ones, Maghrib and Isha. It really speaks volumes, I think, about balancing practical needs with devotion. You keep moving, but you don't abandon prayer.
And there's that detail about ablution, too, keeping reverence, but also, conserving resources.
Exactly. The Prophet's practice, as recorded, was washing hands 3 times, face, arms up to the elbows. But then, crucially, just passing wet hands over his leather shoes, the cuff.
A practical adjustment for the environment.
Right. And it ties into that leadership flexibility again. There's that incident where Hazrat Abdurrahman bin Auf was leading prayer. The Holy Prophet arrived late, joined in during the second unit, and just completed his prayer afterward.
He didn't interrupt or anything.
No, he actually appreciated the companions for starting on time. It's a subtle but powerful lesson, isn't it? Respecting the routine, even from the highest authority.
Okay, now we have to talk about the inevitable logistical challenge, food. The source mentions a point where rations ran dangerously low.
Oh, absolutely. The desperation must have been intense because the suggestion that came from the community was, well, it was pretty drastic.
What did they suggest?
Sacrificing their riding camels for food.
Wow. That's their transport, their lifeline.
Exactly. It was deeply risky. Solves the hunger now, but leaves you stranded later. And this is where Hazrat Umar steps in.
But hang on, if they're starving, sacrificing the animals seems like the immediate survival choice. How did Umar talk them out of it?
Well, he didn't just say, don't do it. He reframed the solution. He warned them, yes, about losing their transport, but then suggested something else. Gather every last scrap of food you have, no matter how little, and ask the Holy Prophet to pray over the collection.
So shifting from sort of material destruction to faith.
Precisely. Relying on divine provision instead of panic.
And did it work? What happened?
The Holy Prophet agreed. He prayed over this meager collection of rations, and the account says everyone ate until they were full and there was still food left over.
Incredible.
It's more than just a miracle story, though. You can see it as a lesson in crisis management, right? Community faith, collective action, succeeding where maybe individual panic might have failed.
Okay, moving on along the route. It wasn't just about food and water. There were these moments that connected them to history, too, like passing the Valley of Hijr.
Yes, and the Prophet gave a really stern instruction there. Don't enter the area where those people suffered punishment unless you absolutely have to. He even covered his face or his head in another narration as they passed through.
Why such severity?
Well, Hijr, this was the homeland of the people of Thamud, Prophet Salih's people. They're mentioned in the Quran. They had immense blessings, a lush valley, but they rejected guidance and were punished, particularly after they deliberately injured Salih's camel, which was meant to be a sign from God.
So passing through those ruins must have been a pretty stark reminder for the army.
A very chilling reminder, I'd imagine. You're on this incredibly difficult journey facing your own tests, and you pass through the literal remains of a civilization judged for disobedience. It puts the whole Tabuk expedition into a different light, doesn't it?
Definitely connects their current struggle to a bigger historical moral context.
Exactly. Physical hardship is one thing, but moral obedience is linked to divine favor.
Okay, now here's a really interesting incident where loyalty and dissent become very clear. The story of the lost camel.
Ah, yes, Koswa. The Holy Prophet's own camel goes missing. Everyone's searching. And then this man, Zaid the source, calls him a hypocrite, apparently Muslim but formerly Jewish. He speaks up.
And what does he say?
He basically mocks the situation. Says something like, if he's really a prophet, why doesn't he know where his own camel is? You know, trying to sow doubt.
Right in the middle of a stressful situation.
Exactly. But the response was immediate. God informed the Holy Prophet exactly where the camel was caught by its reins on a tree in a specific valley, and the companion's reaction was just as swift. Hazrat Amara, who'd fought at Badr, was right there and apparently just expelled Zayd from his tent on the spot.
Wow. No tolerance for that kind of talk.
It really shows how the community policed its own boundaries, its own commitment.
Okay, shifting gears a bit, but
Yep.
still on community issues. There was also an incident involving a fight.
Yes, a physical altercation between two individuals. It got quite serious, cut hands. One person lost their front teeth.
Ouch. And the injured party asked for compensation, blood money.
He did. He asked for recompense. But the Holy Prophet ruled against it in this specific case. The source doesn't detail the exact reasoning, but the ruling itself is significant. It highlights that justice isn't just applying a fixed penalty automatically. It's situational. The leadership has to consider the context, maybe the intent, the circumstances of the fight, before deciding on recompense.
So discernment is key. Okay, let's move to some moments that must have really boosted morale, instances of foresight and, well, practical miracles. I like the one about the date orchard.
Yeah, that's a lovely little story. Almost playful, in a way. They're passing the date orchard, and the prophet asks the companions to guess how many dates are on the trees.
Like a guessing game.
Sort of, and then he gives his own estimate. 10 wusk.
Can you remind us what's a wusk, roughly?
It's a large measure, used for grain and dates back then, maybe around 180, 200 kilograms. So 10 wusk is a lot of dates, a very specific, substantial guess.
Okay, so what happened?
Well, they continued their journey. On the way back from Tabuk, they passed the same orchard, found the owner, and asked him, and he confirmed the yield was exactly 10 wusk.
Exactly. Wow.
Precise foresight, not just a random guess.
They also faced some pretty extreme weather, right? We mentioned heat, but there was a storm, too.
Oh, yeah. When they finally reached Tabuk itself, the prophet warned them. A severe storm is coming tonight.
You predicted it.
He did, and gave specific instructions. Don't stand outside. Tie down your camel securely, and if you must go out, only go in pairs.
And did this storm hit?
It did, and the source notes that those who ignored the warning, who were caught standing outside, were literally swept away by its force. So it was a life-saving piece of foresight.
And the water problem just kept coming back, didn't it? That must have been a constant source of anxiety.
Absolutely nightmarish. It got so bad, the source mentions one person becoming so desperate they actually slaughtered their camel.
Just to drink the water from its stomach.
Just to drink the water from its belly. That's how extreme the thirst was.
So what did they do? Pray again?
The community pleaded for prayer. The prophet raised his hands, and apparently, while his hands were still raised, a cloud formed overhead.
Just like that.
Just like that. And it rained intensely, but the account specifies it rained only on the area where the army was camped, nowhere else. Enough to quench their thirst and collect water.
That brings us to the other famous water incident. At the spring in Tabuk itself, there was a warning about that too, wasn't there?
Yes, very specific. Don't touch the spring water until I arrive.
But someone disobeyed.
2 individuals, according to the account, went ahead and took some water anyway. When the prophet got there and found out, he scolded them for the transgression.
Then what? How did they get enough water for everyone?
Well, the prophet took a little bit of the water that was there, washed his face and hands with it, and then poured that water back into the spring.
Yeah.
And immediately the spring started gushing, flowing rapidly, providing enough water for the entire army. The lesson seems pretty clear. Obedience comes first, then the blessing follows.
And that spring, there was a longer-term prophecy connected to it as well, involving Hazrat Muad.
That's right. The prophet told Muad specifically that if he lived long enough, he would see that barren area around the spring transform.
Transform how?
Into lush green gardens and orchards, a complete change from desert to fertile land.
And did it happen?
Later testimonies confirmed it did. The whole area became green and productive, just as predicted. It adds this layer of, historical validation, and quite poignantly, that fertile area eventually became the place where Muad himself was buried.
Wow. Looking back at all these stories, the logistics, the history lessons, the miracles, what really seems to bind them together is this incredible spirit of community and dedication. It wasn't just an army, it was a community on the move.
Absolutely. That sense of shared purpose, of looking out for each other, is woven through these accounts. Take the detail about the security team.
Right, Hazrat Abad bin Bishr was leading the official guards who circled the camp at night.
Yes, but then something else happened, spontaneously. Another group of Muslims decided, on their own initiative, to form a second security patrol.
To do what?
To guard the guards, to ensure the safety of Hazrat Abad's team. They were protecting the protectors.
That's amazing.
Isn't it? And the Holy Prophet was apparently very pleased when he heard about it and prayed for them. It shows this deep understanding of mutual support.
And then there are those individual tests of faith along the way, like people getting left behind or delayed. Hazrat Abu Dar, for instance.
Right. His camels were slow, causing him trouble, falling behind the main group. When word reached the Prophet, his response wasn't panic. It was quite measured.
What did he say?
Something to the effect of, if there is good in him, God will ensure he rejoins us. Trusting in the process,
And did Abu Dar make it?
He did. Eventually, he realized the camels were just too slow, so he unloaded his belongings, put them on his own back, and simply walked until he caught up with the army. A real testament to his commitment. The mission mattered more than the possessions, even the essential ones.
We also have to mention the newcomer, Hazrat Wasila. His story is quite something.
Oh, yes. He accepted Islam literally just before the army set off, so he missed the main departure.
So he was desperate to join.
Absolutely desperate. He stood in Medina, calling out, offering his entire share of any future spoils to anyone who would just give him a ride to catch up with the army.
Did anyone take him up on it?
An elderly man eventually agreed and gave him a ride on his camel. Later, after the expedition, Wasila tried to give the man his share of spoils as promised. The elderly man refused. He said, essentially, "That's not why I helped you. Getting spoils wasn't my motivation." It just beautifully highlights that for many, the driving force was pure service and faith, not material gain.
So putting all this together, what's the big picture takeaway? This journey to Tabuk, it feels like it was this immense proving ground.
Yeah,
Testing everything, logistics, faith, loyalty, community bonds.
definitely. And resulting in these key leadership moments, these fulfilled predictions, it solidified the community in many ways.
And interestingly, the sermon summary, which is our source, connects these historical lessons directly to the present day, doesn't it? Through appeals for prayer.
Yes, the conclusion shifts focus very clearly. It includes an appeal for prayers for those injured in a recent mosque attack in Rabwa, Pakistan, praying for their recovery and for protection for the community there.
The source also impartially reported on some concurrent events.
That's right. It mentioned, just as a matter of fact, a rally being held in Rabwa by opposing clerics under the banner of Khatm Nubuwat, described in the sermon summary as involving hateful rhetoric. And alongside that, an appeal for Ahmadis in Bangladesh for protection against what the source called dangerous ploys.
So reporting on threats and appealing for divine protection.
Exactly. And finally, there is a very specific appeal for the Palestinians. Prayers for mercy, for freedom from oppression. The sermon summary explicitly referenced the situation at the time, noting that a recently announced ceasefire was being described as in name alone, citing ongoing incidents. It really underscored the perceived need for continued prayer and divine intervention.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into those specific, often overlooked details of the Tabuk journey. It really paints a vivid picture of resilience.
It does. We often focus on the big strategic picture of Tabuk, the army arriving, the outcome. But digging into these details, what's really striking isn't just the grand victory narrative. It's the constant theme of resilience found in solving the small, immediate problems.
Like finding a lost camel.
Right, or stretching tiny rations, or figuring out who guards the guards. These immediate, practical acts of faith and resourcefulness.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener. Think about your own life, your own challenges. How often is real success, real progress, found not just in reaching the final goal, but in those small, sometimes seemingly mundane acts of figuring things out, showing up, helping others along the way? That's certainly something worth mulling over.